Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for stopping to another amazing episode of Ministering Over Fostering. As usual, we are super excited to bring you all of this information and knowledge and all of the things, especially our expertise that comes in through some of the guests that we have. So we're super excited for a guest that we have today, but I won't be introducing her. I'm going to give it off to Lakeisha, and Lakeisha is going to take us from here. So go ahead, Lakeisha.
Oh my goodness, you guys, I am so excited about this guest. Not only do I love everything that she supplies, but I love her story, and I'm going to give it to you, Tia. Can you give a brief greeting about your business and who you are and your credentials?
Well, hi guys, my name is Tia, and I currently run a shop called Dex and Bodie. Dex is after our son Clint, and then Bodie is after our dog. They were best of friends, so I had named the shop after him. But so my shop is all about home decor. I love home. Home is so important to me. I think your home should be a space where you feel very warm and welcoming, and that's the first place you should feel just at peace and just at home. When I started Dex and Bodie after our son Declan was born, he was born with a very rare chromosome deletion. It's called Kagami-Ogata syndrome. He's one of just a handful of cases around the world, and we knew we had to start a blog or something just to bring awareness because it was so rare and we didn't really have anyone to reach out to. So we figured, hey, let's start something. Like maybe someone else can reach out to us, which over the years we've had a few people that have reached out and said, oh my gosh, we don't know anyone. We can't believe it. So I knew we were kind of on the right way, but I needed something to also kind of let out my creativity in some ways. And I loved home. So I thought, okay, home decor is where I want to be in this. So yeah.
You said a few things that I want to chime in about your home being the space that's welcoming. It's just your, I always say it's like a refuge, right? Like it's your place that you're like, I'm safe here.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Myra and I really believe in that. I actually went to school for a little bit for interior design, and then the Lord was like, get back. You're supposed to serve. Like you love it, but you're supposed to serve other people, like kids. And we created a My Bedding project, and that was something that as social workers we see a lot of. Like these kids are just given hand-me-down comforters and just random things, and it's like they need something. They need to be able to go and choose like what their room looks like, to be able to control something in their lives. So we agree with you that your home, your space, that is a reflection of you, and it just gives you comfort.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you own or rent, or if you're in a one room, or if you're something. If you can have a piece or something that makes you feel just like I'm gonna come home to this calming space, that is so important.
Then just like finding out news like that, right? My son has something not many people have, and then using this space of home and safety and connecting and saying, I'm wondering if we can reach more people through this and create our own community. Lakeisha actually just had another episode that's going to be airing very soon, but we talked about you can't do life alone, and you create this community that's very intimate and is like, I've walked similar paths and I know what it feels like. I may not understand your story fully, but it feels very familiar. Gosh, it feels so different.
Yeah. Just to have, even if it's one or two people that understand what you are going through or what you had this day today. It's just like you had an amazing day. They can celebrate everything with you. They can sit with you in anything. And I was just talking to one of the second is on a baseball team, and it's called a Challenger League. And what they do is all itty kids, or even adults with special needs, they have a baseball team. We've been doing it since he was 4. And I was just speaking with someone yesterday, and how she's just like, for talking to me about this. And I'm like, because I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. And just to have, even if it's a small community of people, when you have someone in your corner, on your side, it makes all the difference.
Yes. And I want to applaud you for just starting a blog and bringing awareness to that, because we really don't know how many other parents are going through a similar blog. Not too many people know this about my family, but we have 6 kids, and 4 of my boys, well, 3 out of 4 of my boys, I should say, were diagnosed with juvenile retinoschisis, which that was something that was super uncommon and unheard of. Yeah, and it was very scary. Like when my son was 2 years old, my oldest one, we saw him getting really close to the TV, and we'd have to keep, like, pushing him back, and just thought, oh, he needs glasses. So when we took him to the eye doctor, we're young parents. We have all these professionals rushing in, looking at him, not telling us what is going on. We're like in tears. We're like, what is wrong with my child? And come to find out, it's a retinal detachment from birth. So we found out that my grandfather was the carrier. It skips females. Females can be the carrier, but they can't get it. So all my male cousins, my brother, all of their male kids, and 3 of my boys got it. So I get where you're coming from, because it is scary. Sometimes you do feel like you're alone. And, you know, along with juvenile retinoschisis, it comes along with the eye crossing. So there's been a lot of times where people will look at my boys and I have to become mama bear. And they're in the very beginning, I remember going to places even like church and leaving in tears because some little kid says something not knowing. So not knowing. You know what? I'm just going to say this. I feel like for parents, please educate your kids, you know, about being kind. It means a lot. And, you know, just being there for these parents that are walking this life. It needs sympathy, but we need encouragement.
That's interesting you say that, because I remember an incident at a park one time where these little kids were making fun of Declan, talking about, can you even talk? All these things they were saying about him. And I said, you know, as a parent, I'm not asking you to make your kid play with my kid. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But what I am asking you to let them know that there are kids out there that are going to be different. There are kids out there that are going to be born with certain things. And all we're asking is for you to be kind. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to play with them. We're not forcing you to do anything, but just talk to your children. You'd be amazed at just talking to your children, how differently things happen in school and how they get treated and how they treat others. It's just, it's so important.
You know, I think this conversation is so beautiful because I think it expands in so many different areas. And I'm so glad that you both are being so vulnerable to speak about these experiences. I know Lakeisha's story, but to hear her actually expressing this, friend, I'm super proud of you because I know that's hard. But I think about too, in conjunction with the work that we do, and even just the label of children being in foster care. That creates such a separation from just what it is to be a typical child, right? And so already that stigma of what that carries and that label of what it means to be a child in foster care through the foster care system comes with a package of assumptions. It comes with a package of like, these are the behaviors you expect, this is what it means, and all of that. And now that we're doing this work, Lakeisha's kids and my nephews are very involved in the work that we do. They're our volunteers. They come and clean up this and our visitation. They draw some of the creativity things and pictures that we send. And I've been having a lot of discussion with my nephews. A lot of them are a lot smaller. I have 6 of them. But having this discussion, they ask me questions like, you know, Tia, what does it mean that you are a social worker? Like, these kids have a home, or what does that mean? And really letting them understand it's not that they don't have a home, it's that maybe their parents need help for a little bit and we're helping them until they can go home. Right. Find them a place for them to live. And so one of my nephews drew pictures and he wrote, I hope you get a home soon, right? Like little kids like just understanding this concept of what does it mean and how can I explain it to you so that if you meet someone,
right,
that it's not foreign, that you
and
say,
that changes the conversation. It changes people's mindsets from a young age. So you're not having someone come in and going to school and say, "Oh, you don't have this." Like it changes everything for the better. And I love that. I love that you're doing that with them at such a young age. It's so important.
Yeah. It made me think of this conversation, just made me think. It was a short, and I don't remember if it was for Disney or what, but it was a short, and it was a dad that took his son who was autistic to the park, and everybody looked at the little boy at first, and you could tell the dad almost had like a sense of embarrassment because everybody was staring at him. But at the end of the video, he was like, you know what, forget about it. And they went on the swings together, and the video zoomed in where it looked like they were flying. And it was just about him and his son during that time. And I just thought that was so beautiful because, yes, like our home is the prime example of how we should treat our kids and how they should deserve to be respected outside of the home. That sets the tone. So thank you both for sharing that. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I know you went into how special the company's name is, which I love. We're big on just legacy and carrying names and it meaning something. SNL was actually carrying, it's a staple of carrying on my grandfather and Myra's mother-in-law's legacy. So we commend you for carrying on just that. I love that.
I love that too. I love that you're doing that. It's so special.
Yes. And I'm like, I love the name before I even knew what it meant for your company. I just thought it was so cool sounding.
Oh my God.
So now, again, I love it even more. So I know we got into a little bit, but what does the word advocate mean to you?
Oh man, now being a mom, wow, it means so much. And sometimes you hear advocate and you might jump to like all the things someone's doing or all the, we're in this atmosphere, we're marching down to this place and doing. Sometimes advocacy can just mean going to your kid's school and saying, hey, can you guys put a sensory table maybe at when they have afternoon special time or they have a school event or, be something as simple as like advocacy is just doing what's best for your child, whether that's here at home or it could be out somewhere else. It's such a broad thing. I think sometimes it can be this grand word, this grand thing we have to do, like, oh, it means I have to be at the Capitol and changing things and introducing new bills. Not all the time. Yes, sometimes, of course, you want to do that. But I think it's in your everyday. It's in your going to the grocery store, and if someone says something, saying, hey, say hello, it can be the little things, and it's changing the kind of everyday person. But like advocacy is just, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I think that anyone can do it. Anyone can be an advocate for someone, whether it's on social media, I'm going to support this group here. I'm going to do this. Like it can be pretty much anything and come from anyone. So I think it's not a scary thing. It's a good thing. I love that more people are becoming more aware of kids with special needs, or even, like you guys are doing with fostering and making sure people are seeing it in such a positive light, and you're kind of changing that negative narrative that comes with it, and all from advocacy. That's what you guys are doing, and I love that you're doing it too.
I love the fact that you're talking more of advocacy in such a basic level that is so reachable as a parent, right? Because I think as a parent, there's this idea of like, I don't know how much I have on my own or what I can do. And I'm thinking back to, we had an expert here on bullying, and she said, parents have such an important role that they can play in the lives of the children. Literally just showing up to a school saying, this is not enough. What are you doing to make it a different and a safer place for my child? And you're right. Advocacy can be done in such a more basic level without, I mean, there are people who advocate in a more, macro level, and they do go to the government and work for them. But how can we do it in a more micro level and start within our home and start within only our community, our family, teaching our family, our extended family, what does this mean? What does this entail? And then it moves its way up.
Exactly.
I was going to say too, a lot of our resource parents, they might get a child placed in their home, right? So they welcome the child in, everything seems to be going great. And then later on, either like a diagnosis occurs or there's behaviors that occur. What advice would you give to some of our resource parents that are suddenly walking this great, so-called great story, and all of a sudden they're hit with a diagnosis or they're hit with some type of challenge? What's some advice you can give them to advocate for their child?
For feelings they're feeling right now, it is normal. You are not alone. I can tell you right now, everything you're feeling, everything you're thinking, everyone's felt the way that's been in that position. Just know there are people there to help. Don't be afraid to reach out for that help, whether it's in the school. If you have school-age children, there are resources there to help you. There are things like IEPs. There are things, that, and then you can really advocate for your kid and say, I need this, I need this, we need this. There are things even within our own state that will help with disabilities or anything, even if it's not disability, if they need some type of service, some type of resource, there are things out there. So don't be afraid to reach out to just things that are already around you, and don't be afraid to reach out to a parent that you know, or even if you don't know them. You'd be surprised at how many parents that you don't know, you just say, hey, I noticed your kid is in this class or this. Do you mind if I ask you a question? You'd be so surprised how many parents are just like, yes, absolutely. I want to give you all the information you need. There is help out there for you. You're not alone. I mean, we live in a very digital age now. And social media can be one thing, but there are some really good things about it. And don't be afraid to reach out to resources. Don't overwhelm yourself, but don't be afraid to say, hey, let me sit and learn about this, read about it. There's usually something local in your community that you can talk to parents. There's like a messaging group or something you can reach out to. So don't be afraid to start there. Start by just asking questions, and someone will help you, gather what you need and direct you to, hey, you want to talk to this person who'll get you this help, will get you this therapist, will get you this, don't be afraid to start. And what you're feeling is normal. It's very normal.
Yes. Thank you for saying that the feeling is normal, because I feel like a lot of times parents, I don't know if you went through this, but for me, I went through a feeling of like guilt. Like, my gosh, like, you know what I mean? Like, just why? But it's interesting because over time, that guilt turned into praises. Like, Lord, you made my kid so special. Right? Like, for this reason, for X, Y, and Z reason.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's just amazing how it can just be transformed. Like, like I mentioned, some of my boys have very low vision, and one of them cannot see out of his right eye, but you would never know. And a lot of them, so we found out at 2 years old about the retinoschisis, but my son is now 21 and he's majoring in animation, and his animation is like, you would never know, like, low vision and you're this. So like, I am a firm believer that what the Lord gives, not a setback. It's not testimony.
I mean, whatever's been given to us, right? He can turn it around. These are the things that can be used for his glory. Even the most harshest thing that can happen to you or to happen to your children, and then you don't think, well, why would you allow that to happen? He doesn't cause the bad things, but man, if we trust him, like, he can turn things around for us, and he can use this can help people. We can use this, you can use it for your glory. This is your chance to say, hey, this is what God did for us. And I think that we have to see it that way, because if you don't, like, you can't go through this life.
Absolutely. No. And I'm so grateful that you brought up resources and putting it out there, because a lot of times if we don't put it out there, we will never find out the resources that are out there for us. Like we really just found out that there's so many resources 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just because I was like, hey, okay, what else? Da, da, da. And one thing led to another. And so thank you for bringing that up, because it is true. We are advocates. We have to open up our mouths, and you never know somebody who is just being quiet about things and they're looking for an outlet, and they are just a fountain of resources that can share.
We can't rely on sometimes like our state or our state, or to say, okay, guys, here's all the information. I mean, same thing with us. Like, we didn't know all of the resources, and Declan is 11 now, and probably just a couple years ago, you realized there was a lot of other things like, oh my gosh, we can do this. I didn't know we can do that. I didn't know we can do all these things. And this one of those things like, oh, he needs a chair for if we run a long trip and his legs get tired. Like, we can go through this. It's just little things that we didn't know, but because we asked questions, so we drowned, and we had to kind of go through different avenues, different channels, figure it out. But it's having that community is so important, because someone's going to have that answer for you.
Yes, absolutely.
I wanted to chime in real quick, Lakeisha, because something stood out to me that you're both talking about is the idea of emotions for the parents. And I think part of advocacy is that you can actually understand your emotions as a parent, right? Aside from the work that I do here, I'm also working towards licensure, and I work with a lot of different types of individuals, but oftentimes the sitting in the, like, I'm going through my own emotions as a parent, what my child is experiencing. Lakeisha's guilt, there's embarrassment, right? When I don't do, and I'm in public, maybe my child is acting out, right? We see that a lot in foster care, they're experiencing some behaviors out in public. And it's like having the space to also acknowledge those emotions, find a way to navigate with those yourself, that you can be the best version for your child. Ignoring them or kind of setting them aside, it doesn't help. It actually suppresses them and makes them grow better. So how can we actually sit in those emotions of what that means? And sometimes I think as a couple, right, maybe mom is more ready to go and handle this, and maybe dad's like, I'm still trying to accept and process what this means. So kind of sitting together and figuring that out. Okay, now how can we do this as a teamwork to advocate for your child? But I think emotions are important to process as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. In your blog, which I love, I remember there was a little picture, and I believe it was his birthday. And you were just so adamant about celebrating the accomplishments in his life. And I love this so much. Why do you feel like it's so important to celebrate those milestones, those huge, big and small, I should say, accomplishments?
I think sometimes, and I can say this with confidence now because of this position that we're in as parents with a kid with special needs, I think we take advantage of the little things, like how our typical kids they're walking, they're doing all the things that they, throwing a ball, little things like that. And it's really helped me, and I know it's not about me, but it's really helped us sort of like not take for granted the little things. So we celebrate those little accomplishments for him. Yes, it makes him feel really well, but like great and really, excited. It just helps us really appreciate the things that like God's given us, like the talents and the everyday thing. Like, oh man, I don't have an issue of low muscle tone. Thank you, Lord, for that. Like it's little things that just helps us be thankful, be grateful, and then celebrate even the smallest things, because he celebrates them for us, and I want to be able to celebrate for him. And then, after we had our second, it was like, wow, you're walking, you're doing all the things, and it helps us be more excited about those things too. And so he even feels like, oh, I'm doing it, I just feels happy about that too. So I think it's just important because you just don't want to take for granted the things that a lot of us, it just comes natural to us, and just to celebrate even the little things.
We come in contact with a lot of teenagers and young adults that some of them don't have a very vast understanding of the different careers that are out there. To even know that it's okay if you even have a career change later on in life. So can you give us a little, summary about entrepreneurship, what it means to you, and how you even got there?
Yeah, so I went to school to be a teacher. I was a kinesiology major. I was going to be either a PE or health teacher. That's what I wanted to be. But then that all quickly changed after graduation, which is many, many years ago. But after graduation, we got married, and then we did something else. And then after we had Dex, I obviously had to be at home with him for a couple of years. And so entrepreneurship just kind of like came into my thoughts, like, what can I do, to start, getting back out there, but also I need to be home with my kids and my husband and all the things. So Etsy was really big at the time. All these things were happening, and that world just sort of opened up for me. So I completely changed. And although now, as the kids are older, I do substitute teach now, just a few days a month. It kind of puts you back in there, but it's still being able to say, okay, what am I good at? How can I like foster this creativity, right? So entrepreneurship is the way to go, and for that. And I've noticed nowadays there's so many markets, pop-ups, all different things. So there's so many opportunities now, rather than having like, how do I get a brick and mortar? No, like there's so many places you can go, farmers markets. There's so many things you can just kind of get your feet wet. So I would say, think about what you like to do. What is something that brings you just joy, and what is something that you're really good at, and how can you turn that into maybe like a job for you? And if you don't know, you can always start off really small. Start off at a little farmer's market down the street, maybe cost like $150 for the day, to hang out, and it won't break the bank too much, but you can kind of start small and start seeing like where you want to go. There are so many resources now. There are so many free resources now that you can tap into to see, what does this all entail? Like, what do I need? From the ground up, where do I start? There's so many resources out there. You can even go on like Amazon and you can find books. You just search from low to high. You can find books for a couple bucks that'll share information with you. But just don't be afraid to tap into your resources. There's usually like a local small business office you can talk to, and many of the times it's free. You don't have to come out of pocket too much just to get a little understanding about where you should start and where you should go. But don't be afraid to ask questions too. You see that person who's at that booth selling this, like, hey, how'd you start? Believe me, they'll want to, they'll tell you all about it. So
yeah, I feel like people who are entrepreneurs are always willing to just tell you
absolutely.
Mostly everything, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's just beautiful. And I love that you're saying, find out what you love to do.
Yeah.
Because I feel like nowadays, a lot of these kids have this false, idea of a career. Yeah. Like you just have to make the big bucks, and you want to be able to take care of your family and yourself, right? But there are people that are making the big bucks and are not happy.
They're not happy. Absolutely.
Exactly. So, I guess that's where you have to figure out too. Does it bring me happiness? Am I able to support myself and my family with this job too?
Right. Realize too. I think that the real issue, like social media, can really be deceiving too. So like, don't look at the person that you think they have 100,000 followers and they look so great. It's not always like.
Absolutely.
Just like you have to make sure you're doing, your own research and your own, all the things like that, so that it's genuine for you,
I was just going to say, and I love to talking about how like you can adjust based on what's happening in your life, right?
Yeah.
So, because we have some young mamas that we work with, and have some young moms who have children with a disability. having to spend a lot more time in the home. And so what can I do to bring in? You can't go out.
You can't
work 8-9 hours a day. And what happens with services? You have multiple people coming in with interventions and things like that. And how do you readjust what a career, what work like, to make sure that you're still taking care of things at home? And for places that are still doing virtual, where you can kind of get started, or like you said, finding something that you have as a passion, and where can you get yourself started? So it's a lot about adjustment, and you can do it. You actually can.
Yeah, you can do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the idea though, too. Like, people also have to understand, they see on social media, oh, this person started a business. I'm going to start a business tomorrow because you're making money, and it's so easy. But it's dedication to be an entrepreneur. You have to definitely have a drive for what you love to do, and that has to almost overseed the payoff, because the payoff is not right away. It's not instant.
And there are days where you are going to have amazing days, and there are days you're going to be like, what happened?
Why did I do this?
Everyone. Yeah, exactly. Like, why did I don't know. I'm just going to stop it. You definitely have to be realistic about those things, and just know that, like, it's not always not always rainbows and butterflies. There's always days where you're just like, but just gonna be realistic.
Exactly. And I feel like I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. When I first had our first son, I was like, how can I stay at home and be able to take care of him? And at that time in my life, I had this passion for making baby blankets for him. So I started a little company called Trendy Seeds. Doesn't exist anymore. Where I made like car pillows and little blankets to match. And then I watched a few kids along with him that were his age. So I became like a teacher of the home, right? And it worked for us in that season. So I love that, you're like, find out what the passion is, figure out how to make it work, because us as women, we're determined. Like, if we want something, we will do it.
Absolutely.
We will do it.
That is so true.
And speaking of determined, I read that you basically started the company from the ground up. So with that, what challenges and what major success stories have you experienced by doing so?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely days where it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to keep on doing this, but I love what I do. I love sourcing things. I love, just looking for things. But, starting it from the ground up, you make mistakes here and there. Like, you think, okay, I should have done this, or I spent too much here, or I did this, and I should have done that. Like, you're going to have some days where you made the right decision, some days you didn't make the right decision. But once you find what works for you, for me, pop-ups work for me. Going out into the community and being there and kind of building this clientele of people that came back and they would come, you were here last week? Yeah. Okay, people actually want to come see me. Online didn't really work well for me. Like, just starting off online is, okay, so how in person works for me. It works a lot better for me. So, I put a lot of time and effort into what works. So, I'll put more time and effort into doing it in person pop-up rather than putting a lot into, website design or just because you find out what works for you. There's trial and error. There's times where you think, oh, this worked for me, and it's the ones you have to kind of pivot sometimes. You still want to be genuine to what you love, but you might just have to change a little bit and say, okay, what is going to be the best for my business? How is it going to grow? How is it going to change? And so one kind of thing you have to look out for when you're first starting, and then you just stick with what you know. Don't look to everyone else and say, well, they're doing that, so I have to do that. Like, no, that's for them. You need to find out what's for you and find out what works for you. And because you just don't want to stretch yourself too thin, and you don't want to make decisions that are going to hurt you with your product or even with financially. You just don't want to do that. So yeah, just find out what works for you and stick with what you know and stay genuinely true to why you're doing this, why you're starting this. Stay true to yourself.
FYI, your website is beautiful, by the way. So that's how I found you. I love you mentioned the ups and downs and how you're always learning, I feel like, as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And Myra and myself can definitely relate. We get into this starting, an agency on our own. Mm-hmm. No one that we've known in our family has ever started an agency. They may have started businesses, but never an agency. Right. And that's a whole other ballgame. Yeah. And we've learned so much. And we've also learned, this is why the Lord did that, because if we would have got that back then, we would not have been ready for it, you know?
Right.
So we have to thank them for, the ups and the downs, the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Us through something to get us better.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we can talk to you all day long, Tia. But we don't want to be selfish, and we want to share you with our listeners. So where can they find you? Where can they find access to your blog? Where can they find your products?
So I'm mainly on Instagram, so it's just at Dex and Bodie. Website's the same, dexandbodie.com. And then our blog is called 7th and Bixby. That's our family blog that we do. It's just a little nod to where we started off at. We got married, our little streets and stuff. So yeah, so 7thandbixby.com is our blog. And yeah, I always post where I'm going to be locally around the area. So my next pop-ups, I'll post that on there. You'll see it in my bio. And if you join the newsletter, I also will share things. I don't do a lot of newsletters, so don't worry, I won't spam you. I'll just send out a few if I have some big updates or things like that. Things coming up, and I'll send out some information. But yeah, I mean, that's the best way to find me. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram. Comment. I'd love to chat.
Tia, I know that this is not one of the questions that we sent you, but I'm so curious just because your personality is incredible, and I'm so grateful for the time you've taken to share your story with us. But we do have some young mamas that are working really, really hard. Keisha and I not only help those who've been in the foster care system, but also as a prevention, because if they've been in the foster care system, they're at a higher risk. And so we help them with their babies and their children. So that they can kind of have a level up. And I'm just wondering, we do like to kind of end our segments with about them. Is there any advice that you can share with our young mamas that are maybe trying to get their life together, trying to what they do with little ones? And some of them have little ones that have a disability, some of them don't. But just as a mama in general, any advice you can share with them?
Oh, let me just first say, mommies, you are doing a good job. I know there are days where you feel like, what am I doing? You feel like you maybe are not doing enough for your children. You feel like you're not adequate enough sometimes. I mean, even now, I still feel those feelings. So you're not alone. You have so much support and so much help. Don't be afraid to reach out and get help. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. Yes, sometimes our society will tell us, and they want to say all the negative things about that, but there's nothing wrong with it. Look out locally around you and say, hey, are there programs for young moms like me? For example, not too far from me, there is a program that through the school district that helps young mothers. They actually allow you to bring your mothers to school, basically. You can come with your child if you would like, or you can leave your child. And you're getting an education, even as young as infants. They are getting care, getting help to where you've got a few hours a day, you can go to school or you can go to work or whatever you want to do to sort of better your situation, make yourself stronger for you and your children. Don't be afraid to reach out to those resources. They are there. You are not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with getting help. There's nothing wrong with being a young mother. Things happen. There are so many women who have gone before you who have done this. You can do this, and your children love you. They know that you care for them. So just don't be afraid to ask for help. That's your first step. Ask for help. It's okay. Even if you need 2 hours a day, to do something, to study or something, it's okay. Ask for that help. There are so many people and resources out there that are willing to help you. And just remember, you're the best mom for your child. If they were not supposed to be here, they wouldn't be. And you are the best person for them. So don't forget that. Just use your help. It's okay. You're doing a great job.
My heart. Thank you for speaking life into these young moms. I love, 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 love that, because a lot of times they don't get that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Tia, we definitely want to say thank you so, so much for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to give us so much wisdom. We truly do appreciate this. And I think we wish we could have you for a lot longer, but we know that you have so much to do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there's any final thoughts you might have before we close out. We give you the floor. If not, we can close out our episode today.
Thank you both so much. I love what you're doing. I love that you are providing such a warm environment. You know, I don't have much experience in the foster world, but I do have an aunt and uncle who do bring on foster children, and I just love that we can love on them too when we're around them. So what you do is so important, and I'm just so grateful for, you know, agencies like you that you guys have, because you know, it's just so important to have that. So thank you for having me. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing as well.
Thank you. Lakeisha.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say again, Tia, thank you for saying yes. And thank you just for being a positive person out in the community. I felt it through your website. I felt it with your packaging and the little special notes. So whether or not you feel like you're making a difference, you really are. There were days where I was just so excited to get this little special package in the mail that I'm like, oh, it's going to make my house better for my family. And, you know, and that goes back into the decor, making this peaceful place for your family. So thank you, and blessings to you and your family.
Thank you. You too, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So the big problem now is that we're a little bit addicted to your website and what we can purchase. So
but a lot addicted. A lot. I'm not going to show my house right now, but a lot of these pieces are yours in my house right now.
I love it. See your name come through and I'm like, oh yay. Good. So
well,
good.
Thank you so much, Tia. Again, we want to honor your time, and we want to say thank you for being here with us. We really hope that you go and that you're blessed and continue doing what you're doing for Dex. You're doing a wonderful thing for him and for all of the other families out there that need this and need you in this space. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by to another amazing episode of Ministering Over Fostering, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.